The problem with movement coaches is most of them do not move well. I'm talking about the thought leaders. They don't move well. I'm a broken, beat up, failed power lifter, so now I'm a coach. Okay, great. You read some books and you positioned yourself well, and now you run a kid factory where you exploit the affluent suburban families who send their kids to you at 3 in the afternoon and pick them up at 5:30. And you run them through the gauntlet doing, the stuff you teach at your seminar. And they do a lot of good stuff, but they do stuff. If you serve me dinner and it's the best dinner ever and there's a little piece of feces on the plate, well, the presentation sort of ruined the whole thing for me. Why is that on the plate? Why?
Welcome to this week's Escape Your Limits podcast. Today, we sit down with a biomechanist and inventor who specializes in the study of human movement and locomotion. He is best known for inventing the BOSU ball, along with the RMT club, pulsers, and the soul steps that focus on building the rotational, pulsing, and coiling abilities of an athlete. We had the opportunity to visit him at his WeckMethod Lab in San Diego, where he spills his knowledge about the exponential difference of being coiled versus being stiff and braced when working out, why he thinks traditional powerlifting moves are overused and disadvantageous, and his frustration with the fixed-minded strength and fitness education system. So please welcome the CEO and founder of BOSU Fitness, Mr. David Weck. David, thanks for inviting me over.
Well, Matthew, it is a pleasure. I'm glad you got to see our new space.
It's been a few years since we did the last interview, isn't it now? It must be about
6 or so, probably?
Yeah, it's been
6
a while.
or 7 years.
I think you were on one of my earlier podcasts, actually.
Yeah, the time flies.
Yeah, it was in your previous sort of laboratory. Yeah.
Correct. Yes.
And just for people who are listening on audio, where are we in here then?
Center of the universe as far as functional fitness. This is the laboratory where we have a big lab space, gym space, where we train a number of athletes, usually a pro athlete or someone who's trying to make the pros. We have this office space, we got a trainer lounge, we have an R&D room, and a beautiful rooftop. So it's the perfect place for us over the past 5 years at the stage in our development and growth.
Right.
And it's got a lot of character.
It is. It's lovely. Yeah, it's very, very, very nice indeed. And one of the things, I guess, I would say you're probably known for balance. I suppose if you had to put a few words and create a word bubble for you, balance would definitely be something that come up on my mind. But I was chatting to your colleague out there about what you're doing and how he's working with you, and he was mentioning how one of his challenges is to get you balanced from sort of, avoiding the extremes. What does he mean by that then?
Well, I mean, I'll be perfectly frank, and I got nothing to hide. I'm not ashamed of my mental illness challenges. I'm a very intense person, and whatever I do, I just do it with such intensity, and that is part and parcel. I've sort of lost touch with the reality of the here and now, and entered the timeless time realm. And without my doctor, friends, family, some medicine, I could literally be out there under a bridge mumbling the numbers of pi with a shopping cart. It could literally be that had I not had that net that caught me. Right. And it happened 3 times, and I didn't think it would happen a 4th, but it did happen a 4th. And so I'm playing on borrowed time now. And the thing that is most important to me is my legacy, which I define as my family and my work. And so the idea of staying the course now with functionality to be effective so that I can, create that legacy, that's more important to me than some of the riskier exploration. So for me, the catalyst to the mental illness was marijuana.
Really?
Yes, and I was an East Coast guy who, when I grew up, it was a phase of where I was where, pot was for the burnouts and the losers. I played football, I drank beer, so I really didn't do pot back in those days. And then I moved out to say, and I also had a very negative sort of feeling about it. I moved out to San Diego in 2002, and I meet a guy who looks like you, who's driving a Lexus, works in a law firm, and you smoke every night? Really? Oh, wow. huh, that gave me license to say, oh, okay, well, maybe this can be high functioning. And boy, oh boy, my reaction to the THC was exhilaration, electrification. So the stuff that would knock someone else out, that gave me, like I could feel the kundalini inside, just like needing to emerge. And you know, the idea, it gave me a body sense of sensitivity. I could feel everything. And I studied the martial art. And because I'm not big, fast, or strong, I have to be very sensitive. So I have to deflect, create my advantage. I need to be super hard, but I'm not going to overpower someone who I can't overpower. But the marijuana gave me that tuning, and then I trained with the rope, created something called rope flow. And that is the Rosetta Stone. So for the listeners out there, the Rosetta Stone was this tablet that had 3 languages all on the tablet that said the same thing. So suddenly now you can translate and decipher other languages. So that's what the rope does. And the innovation that I came up with was I didn't jump the rope. So I met Buddy Lee in New York City. He's one of the best jump ropers in the world. He was an Olympic wrestler. And a lot of the performance, you know, there's the jump, and then there's the side, the jump. And so I just said, all right, I'm going to get good at the side, and why am I going to bother jumping? Because if I don't jump, I have to rotate. And if I don't jump, you're on the beat. The whole body goes down, the whole body goes up, and you rotate, rotate, rotate. If I jump, it's a syncopated beat because the hands go down, the feet come up. So it's a float like a butterfly, and when you're doing it around your body and unifying on the beat, right? The beat, 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 that's sting like a wasp because you can keep stinging. And my athletic potential exceeded my expectations. At 26 years old, I thought I had missed the boat with martial arts. As soon as I found that rope, I said, oh, I'm going to program myself. And
Where did that come from? Like from being on the marijuana and being like getting this sort of connection between physical and mental somehow, was it, do you think?
Well, I think it was, I was an athlete my whole life. And if I had, you know, my choice of what hand God had dealt me back when, it would have been Bo Jackson plus 100 pounds. I want to be the greatest football player ever. Football was my life. It was my passion, you know, faith, family, football. And I knew I wasn't going to be a professional football player, but I trained and I played as if I was going to be a professional football player. I played Division III college football because there's no Division IV, I like to say. I always get a smile when I say it. And I excelled at it because I used my head. So I could dunk a volleyball, and I ran a 4.640. And I was fast in terms of my agility. So the 40-yard dash, there's guys faster than me on my team, but the 5.10.5 change of directions, I was the fastest D-back. So I'm quick, right? I'm not that powerful, right? I'm relatively thin. But that drive to play football, that sort of like, okay, 11 is 1. You can count on me. I will fulfill my responsibility so that we can march down and we can win this game. So it had that like tenacity of whatever it takes, you know, I will die before I will quit. So that was that feeling. And then I decided not to become a football coach because that is a nomadic existence if you want to climb the ladder of success. You know, oh, I got a job at Tennessee, and oh, there's one over here. Now I got to go to Minnesota. Oh, now I got to go here. Or the head coach is fired. Now I don't have a job. So I didn't want that kind of, you know, just flailing in the wind without control over my geography. But that's what I probably would have done if it were sort of a show you get to live where you want. But I became an actor upon graduating. I had worked on Wall Street the summer before graduating Williams College, and I just was like, oh no, like I can be rich and ride the train and have 2.5 kids and, you know, go to the Hamptons in the summer. And I was like, shoot me now. So I dove into acting. I got an agent very quickly in New York City. I was at it. You know, I work hard at anything I do. And I screen tested for things that you've seen. And God bless, I didn't get them. Because had I gotten them, I'd be waiting for the phone to ring right now. No. And so I found my calling when I invented the BOSU ball. I was rollerblading in New York City, and I rollerbladed for 6 years straight, and I didn't walk outside for about 6 years. I'm talking Friday night, you're out. I'm walking in skates, and I'm so good you don't know I got them on, and I'm just taller. So that made my feet exceptionally weak because they're just contained, and they're never articulating, and they're just like soft. And I was on a rocky beach in France, and I had to crawl off the beach because my feet couldn't do it. I went to a swimming pool in the summertime, and walking on flat cement from the kiddie pool to the diving boards, I had to sit down. Literally, it was like the pain was so intense in my feet. And I didn't know anything compared to what I know now about the biomechanics. And the weak feet causes tension to rise. If the foot can't do it and resolve that transmission and exchange, well, then the upper body has to sort of create a tension that, right, like imagine you step on a Lego. Right? You do that. And now your center of mass effectively rises so that now you're very unstable. You need to sink if you want to be fast. Because people say force comes from the ground up, but what they fail to tell you is first it goes down. And it's the pitch you deliver to the ground that determines the quality of the hit you can get coming up from the ground. Mm-hmm. And so I injured my back. I dropped the motorcycle that I had. I was jump starting it on 56th Street, going the wrong way against traffic, side saddle, full tank of gas, and a car swerved. I swerved. The thing fell down. I'm a poor actor, by the way, personal trainer. The brake lever breaks, the mirror breaks. I'm like, I lift it up, and I'm like, oh. And 3 days later, I was crippled in pain. And because my feet were weak, I couldn't fix the problem. And I had no idea. I went to surgeons. I begged them, cut me, fix me. No, I can't do that, And I went to physical therapy, didn't work.
And it was all because of the 6 years of roller.
Yeah, it was just because of weak feet.
Right.
And I'm an effortless power guy. Right now, my training, my objective, you're an athlete, you come to me, all right, I'm going to give you effortless power, and then we're going to add effort. Because if we start building effort on effort, all right, well, there's inefficiencies in there that if we just found that, like, true balance, now everything you build, you get. There's no compensatory nonsense happening. So I didn't know that my feet were the issue. But then my therapist, okay, insurance is over. This is the last session. Well, here's a stability ball, right? Yeah, here's a couple exercises. And I took to it, and I started training on it. And then I saw Paul Chek on the internet. And he's standing on a ball, like, there's a famous picture. I was like, oh, I'll try that. So I took my pull-up bar and, got on the ball, sort of, okay, wow, that's interesting. And I'm extreme. So in my little 200 square foot Manhattan apartment studio, which was my greatest apartment because I wasn't sharing it with 3 other guys, I had 7 stability balls in that apartment.
Why 7?
Just because I'm a collector, connoisseur. This one's smaller, this one's harder, this one's larger. And one night I was watching the NBA Finals, and the New York Knicks lost the finals. And that night I was standing on a 75-centimeter ball. And I could jump onto the ball. I could hold the ball and jump. I could jump from one ball to another ball. And when you're doing that kind of stuff, you're on guard for the fall. So you're prepared to fall, right? If you mess up, okay, adjust, and at least you have a chance. I went the other way from my Feldenkrais education, where it's this reduction and minimalism into the...
Introducing the next big thing in functional training, the Escape Barrow. A revolutionary training tool that combines a loaded farmer's carry with a sled push to develop hip, grip, and core strength. Developed in partnership with Pete Holman, inventor of the TRX Rip Trainer and Nautilus Glute Drive, the Escape Barrow can be rolled, pushed, dragged, and carried. The Escape Barrow packs a punch with an impressive load capacity of 440 pounds, and with a 2-stage galvanized paint covering process, it's also ideal for outdoor use. So head over to escapefitness.com/barrow. That's escapefitness.com/barrow to find out more. Enjoy the rest of this episode. What's Feldenkrais?
So Feldenkrais is a somatic way of learning to move the body with efficiency according to your skeleton and myofascial network, nervous system. So let's say you have pain somewhere because, of some injury over there that created this here. What Feldenkrais is it's reduce it down to you're laying down. And there's something called functional integration, where the practitioner is sort of dancing with you and feeling the joint movement, and now the nervous system can discern, like, oh, that's tense, that's not. Oh, well, I'll go where it's not. And so that minimalism allows you to feel. Mm-hmm. And so now you have awareness, and that helps you learn that sort of economy and that clean exchange of force for yourself. And so I was on that stability ball, and one of the things, your eyes have a huge effect on your balance. So unbeknownst to us, we are scanning for horizontals and verticals all the time. You have a horizon line, you got trees. That creates the grid, and then everything else, you're acting within that, right? I was once at the Science Center in San Diego. They had this thing where it was a circular tent with green stripes and white stripes. You get in it, and they spin it, and you lose your balance. Nothing happened. Close your eyes, you're fine, right? They have that profound an impact. So I'm on the ball. I close my eyes, right? Okay. And I start turning my head, change vestibular. And then I went like this. And here, and phew, my feet flew out. My butt hit the ball. I did a backflip, landed, other side. I started kicking my feet to make sure I could still kick them, because I landed sort of, head, neck, shoulder. I could still kick them. And that was the night where I was like, oh man, I'm not going to continue to risk those kind of things. What am I going to do? Because my body was starting to feel better, and my feet, because that ball, there's an articulation, and there's sort of like an engagement that has a chaotic aspect. And so you're getting this, a lot of strength and a lot of sort of reactivity.
I was listening to one of your interviews where you said that your feet, we evolved where they were used to sort of grip things like trees and stuff like this. Is that?
Yes. Well, so let's say you're going to entertain the theory of evolution as the theory, right? So let's just say that, okay, we're going to use that model to just try to, increase our understanding, right? Okay, so the primate, very similar to us, they interact by climbing. So they're not upright bipedal. You're up in the trees, the sanctuary and safety of the canopy. Mm-hmm. And if you can get to the place on a tree where the big cat can't get you, well, then you can throw rotten peaches at it and laugh, right? So the foot is cling on to mama. A baby, if you touch their palm, they grasp, and if you touch their foot, they grasp. A chimpanzee will think with its toes. Like, it'll literally be doing that, right? So, and if you look at the foot, it's not designed for upright bipedal motion. If it is, God, come on now. Really? You can give me all that mess down there that I got to do? So the foot came from there, and then we sort of made the decision that we were going to differentiate and specialize. I'm going to let my hands do everything. I'm going to let my feet support and transport. What else did they do? I mean, you can do a lot with them, but most don't.
Well, I guess we in some ways, we actually dumb down, we almost imprison in some way, if what you're saying is true, these are kind of meant to do
articulate.
Stuff. Yeah, we're actually putting them in a little bit of a prison, say, okay, well, we're not going to take note of any of the responses that you're getting.
It's like glasses. If you put on glasses with too much magnification, when you take them off, it's harder to see. Right? The crutch becomes the aid becomes the problem. Right? The curse, the blessing, whatever. So with the feet, the way they work is that the fourth and fifth metatarsals that connect to the fourth and fifth toes, those bones are the strong part of the foot, and they are the first floor because they tie in directly to the calcaneus, the heel bone. The big toe, second toe, third toe, they actually rest on top as the second floor because they tie into the talus, which is above the calcaneus. And so you literally have the foot, it has a strong side and a long side. And you gotta use them advantageously. Otherwise, if you go to the long side first and you haven't, stabilized and sent force to the long side, and you're going straight, Well, now it's sort of a premature. You're trying to go on the second floor, but you haven't secured the first floor. And so there is a sequence to the gait pattern, right, that is skeletally appropriate.
What about people that do naturally, their feet point in a different direction where they can't get that? Is that because of an imbalance or an issue that needs to be corrected somewhere else? Or?
Well, yes and no, right? Depends, right? Yeah. So you have genetic anomalies in different shapes. You have injury anomalies, different shapes. You have neural, issues or whatever. But generally speaking, the outside is the strong and the inside is the long.
Right.
And so that patterning becomes essential if you're going to do it. And if I'm pigeon-toed, I will tend, and bow-legged, I'll tend to be very springy. Because now that like iliotibial band and all that like connective tissue on the outside, there's not a lot of your adductors don't have that big band of connective tissue. It's the outside that has that. And so if I'm bowed, right, it's very springy. And what they'll be is, the gym teacher who knows sees the pigeon-toed kids, hey, you want to come out for football? You want to be a receiver or running back because he's got that speed that's quick.
Okay.
Now, that pigeon-toed person won't be able to top out speed as much as the person that can land a little bit out, right? So generally what will happen is you land out, you go inside, and there's sort of the force going that way that will sort of kick it into a ping like that. And if you run and recover with the heel inside and the foot outside, what I call that is you're ahead of yourself. And so I don't know if you've ever had the sort of the sensation of you're running and you feel like I can go faster, but I can't, right? So if I can get on top of myself, think of, dermatomes, the neural map of how the nerves come out of the spine. No. So basically the feet, when they emerge out, you're an embryo and now you're turning into a person, the feet will pop out of what's called limb buds. And the big toe is here and the pinky toe is here. And what will happen is as you come, the leg grows in between the foot and the body. So it's not like your leg grows, it's the foot and then the leg grows in between. And what it does is it spirals to here. So the innervation is from the lower back and it wraps around. And so it creates this like springy action. The hands do the same thing, but they don't spiral to there. They sort of stay more how they came out. Right? In terms of the dermatome is that representation of the nerve direction, like the routing of the nerves.
Right.
So this position here is where most people are going to land a little. If you're sprinting, most people, overwhelming amount of people, will land turned out because there's a figure eight. The adductors both flex and extend the same joint. Only muscle group that does opposing action on the same joint. And the way it does it is figure eight. A figure eight never stops, right? So I'm here, 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 here. So it's outside to inside. It kicks out because I can pull my leg through internally rotated much easier than I can externally rotated.
Right, I'm with you.
So boom, boom, and then to gain that outside power, right, and to set myself up for that big boom extension, it comes out.
And does that figure eight, like I notice on your top, you kind of have
that's the
sort of
BOSU logo, the both sides utilized logo.
So does that figure eight something that applies to a lot of different things other than just the foot?
Yes. The DNA is a double spiral helix, right? The actin and myosin filaments spiral, right? Origin insertion, spiral. Their rotation is what we are. And in order to achieve balance, I define balance as coordination. So it's task specific. I would say that a violinist who can play real well has incredible balance of the positioning and the transitioning of that. It is a balance. It's an active, in-the-moment thing where you know where to press and you know how to inhibit. Because the pruning away of incorrect action is actually the bigger challenge than the action.
Right.
So the thing about movement study is if you're not operating on first principles physics and truly understand the biomechanical reality, and then just the physics that gravity straight down is where and when. The when is 9.8 meters per second squared. So that gives us the timing, right? And we need to tune to the timing. What's the key to comedy? Timing. Timing is everything. So you get integrated and everything, boom, doing its role where and when it needs to do. So that's our constant, and we now rotate about that constant. Because if you have to move, you have to shift your weight. And you have to shift your weight, you can't do it braced in neutral because it's not in balance. And that's the huge mistake that has been made in the fitness, sports, performance, exercise industry at the very high level of the thought leaders who, what they think and prove scientifically through peer review, that rains down influence onto every single thing.
So what is that, for those who don't know, and I'm one of those, what is that sort of common thought then that some of these sort of leaders are sort of, explaining?
The most influential thought leaders, okay, the fundamental mistake that was made was they conflated heavy bilateral lifting with functional movement.
And break that down.
Okay, I'll break it down.
Yeah.
So basically, heavy bilateral lifting, the squat, the deadlift, right? Those are the axial loaded heavy lifts, right? The basics: squat, deadlift, bench press, powerlifting, which I am a very big proponent of. And you can modify those things and change those things to create even more capacity to the translation of athletic movement. But the spinal function of those big lifts is no change. So whether you're gonna, extend the back and squat, or sort of make it internal torsion, and the deadlifter, you're a lot stronger when you sort of do that than if you try to hold it here. You try to hold it here strategically for reasons, because there are reasons to do it that way, but if you want to pick up the most, you have to be there and you have to stay there. So if the spine is changing under tremendous axial load, there are problems that just become inevitable, okay? So, and that is scientifically understood. Now, if you use that information to now inform movement, you're operating on a paradigm here that says, okay, the axial load and that stiffness in whatever position it's in is the priority. But the issue here is I can't shift my weight. I am bilaterally loaded, and there's a 50-50 relationship. And so if I do this, then I can say the core does not generate the power. It is the ball and socket joints that are responsible for the movement. So the core in that scenario is more just like
stabilizing.
What it is it's the conduit that translates the force on the shoulders or in the arms to the hips. And then the hips do the big, the hips are the strongest joint. And so that is true. It's all good, right? I'm a both sides utilized guy. Problem with functional training is a lot of people just forget about strength. Oh, I'm functional. Okay, boom. Yeah, you need both. So that right there, you have a certain core function, spinal function. But as soon as I go to shift my weight, it's called the spinal engine, and now the core is driving. The core is the engine. And there's a man named Serge Grakovetsky, who wrote a book called The Spinal Engine that happens to be ridiculed by the thought leaders because, oh no, core doesn't generate power. The ball and sockets do. You have to stabilize, right? If I'm not stable, then I'm not strong. Oh, really? Get in a skyscraper and close your eyes. You're going to feel it sway. Get on a bridge, suspension bridge. It's going to sway. Because if it doesn't sway, it's unstable. If it's locked
Rigid,
in place.
Yeah.
Think about like you're in a northeast environment where it gets cold in the winter, hot in the summer. The reason why the bridge segments are like this is because when it gets hot and cold, you need it, and if it's fixed, it's going to crack and break. Your body's very similar in the sense that if I'm going to shift my weight, I need every joint to articulate where and when it needs to articulate. And You said to me that your lower back hurts. The number one best activity for you to fix your back, so you're a kid again. You don't have to think about it. And I was a back pain sufferer who was begging surgeons to cut me, okay? And I took more painkillers. I eviscerated my gut and my liver. Like, I messed up because I didn't know what to do. So the best thing that you can possibly do for your spine health and all the joints in your body is true balance. Locomotion that is 100% balanced. And the textbook will tell you walking is a series of controlled falls. Yeah, according to that paradigm, it is. Because if I'm here and my spine is straight and my head's in the middle, if I lift this, it does that. Right? Now, that's all good and well if I'm going that way. But if I'm going that way, the last thing in the world I want is a force that is aberrant to my support. When I shift the head over the foot, stay there forever. No effort. And now I have to be there when I get there. So I have to now figure eight the shoulder, which creates, just by virtue of the way the spine is curved, the underhand figure eight of the shoulder creates an overhand figure eight of the hips. And it's just biomechanical. So it's this, and now I get to do this. My hip lifts. It's easier to lift my foot. And now I'm there when I get there because my head, boom, I'm in balance. And so I'm displacing and shifting my body's weight to perfect balance, to perfect balance.
So in terms of like efficiency of movement
Yes.
based on how the body is, and so is what you're saying, this sort of movement of energy and transferring of power, the most efficient way to go from A to B, let's call it, is, for the body that is to have this figure of eight movement in what we do.
Yes. That is correct.
Which translates into life and sport.
It translates into you being faster, more powerful in the big three, as I'll call them, which is locomotion, throwing, and swinging.
Yeah.
What I do is I go back to the first principle physics of all we have is sticks and stones. Imagine when there's no tools. Well, what's the first tool? It's already fashioned. It's a stick. Where do I live? I live in the trees. Oh, he's bigger than me. Click, bang. Okay, great. My seed, not yours. Right? So now, a stone. That's very functional, isn't it? I can open a coconut with stone. Hard to do with just the hands. Oh, I'm going to throw it over there. I told you about my dad in Ethiopia. When the wild dogs were, if I'm walking and I'm far away from the next, sanctuary of safety, I needed a pocket full of rocks and a stick. He was in the Peace Corps, and he had to do it. If you didn't do it, you were risking your life. So what becomes a very important activity is the ability to throw, and the throw resolves itself through a figure of eight and spiraling. There's a Marshall principle, Marshall science. That's the art of surviving in the face of opposition that is trying to kill you. First one is face the force. So if I'm facing this way, I'm in a very bad position to defend myself, right? So the resolution of the spiral resolves the circle. It resolves the circle. So again, the zeitgeist and thought leaders, they have everybody training the decelerators. Oh, we need to train the decelerator because you're going fast and you need to stop.
Okay.
No. At what point is the golf guy trying to slow his club down? At what point am I trying to slow my hand down when I'm throwing?
So
what I do is I release the energy boom, through this just whap, whap.
So I was watching a guy on YouTube.
There's nothing slowing down, but the part is slowing down because of the resolution.
Yeah. I was watching this guy on YouTube just yesterday. I don't know, it popped up, and it's quite one of these little stories that comes up. And he was doing these amazing acrobatics. So he had like 4 or 5 people, and he was he was running up and doing these flips. And then when he landed, he was doing another 2 tumbles. And I suppose that's the same.
The parkour guy. The key to not killing yourself is don't decelerate too rapidly.
Right.
Right? So if I jump off a 40-foot ledge, I have to now use the legs to set up the body to roll the shoulder to keep it going until the energy just It's gone and I didn't get hurt.
Right.
That's how people are able to do these beyond incredible things. And we often talk about how lame the human being is in terms of movement capacity compared to the animal kingdom, right? You hear it all the time. We're pathetic, blah, blah, blah. Oh, really? I don't see chimpanzees jumping 40 feet off a thing and running around buildings. Maybe they could, but I think human beings can.
Yeah.
I've never seen a chimpanzee get on a motorcycle and do 3 flips over whatever. Right? Yeah, so human beings and the Red Bull athlete is demonstrating what we're capable of. And what you need to do is understand that you cannot be capable of that type of control and capacity unless you have the coordination, i.e. balance, to be where and when you need to be.
So why is this? So you said about the sort of thought leaders. Why is there? Does that not? Well, 2 things. One is why is the fixation on those sort of core moves, and if they, and then secondly, are those? Well, what? Yeah, and then are those core moves relevant, or are you saying that those core moves are not relevant either? So we should look at some other core moves that rely around this sort of figure of 8 movement.
Well, here's the way. WeckMethod is simply a both sides utilized practice. And the theory that we have is that the way that you get the whole to be greater than the sum of all the parts is you train the side to absolute longest on one side, absolute most sprung coiled on the other. Mm-hmm. I can set my body in a position where I can wedge my skeleton in this, we call it a coil, that's based in the spinal engine, where the hip is coming up and forward, the shoulder's coming down and back, and about where the 9th rib reaches the side of the body, that's the axis. This doesn't change relative to the shoulder down and the hip up. So that's there. I'm anchored into skeleton. Put 500 pounds on my hand. I'll hold it, no problem.
Because it's
skeleton.
Mechanical...
It's my skeleton, and It's a long bone transmission. Okay. The axial through part of a femur is incredible. Right. Did you see the guy win the Olympics in the snatch, and the guy comes up, he's standing on one leg? It's like the gold medal, right? How's he doing it? It's the skeleton. So he uses the soft connective tissues and the fascial integration and intelligence to organize the bone structure. It's your bones that are strong. And the reason why you can throw a much more penetrating, powerful punch with that relaxed fluidity is because the bone is already hard.
Right.
My bone is hard. So if I'm not throwing the hard part fast.
So just so I can keep up with where you're going. Yeah. So are you almost saying then that let's say this is if in the right direction, if I sort of throw this and put you on this is going to create, it's going to break through through the table if you hit it right.
Yes.
But obviously with bones, there's joints and they're bent over. So are you saying that the way that you organize the fascia and the muscles is basically kind of putting those and moving those in the perfect position to create that force in a narrow part?
So actually, the bone substrate may be weaker than the steel, so just a steel tube could be stronger than the bone, but pound for pound, as it were, the skeleton is set up through this spiralized force transmission, which is stronger than a just plain cylinder.
Because it's like a spring, I suppose.
Well, it's like a spring, but it's also it's distributing the lines of force in a manner that allows it to, and that's the way that the whole human body is.
Right.
So the axial loaded bone structure is incredibly strong. If I put 1,000 pounds on a femur that's like this and it goes here, that will break relatively easy, right? It's going to snap. But if I can arrange it so that I'm funneling the force to the floor, you want to be the lightning rod and the conduit of that heaven reaching the earth, and I didn't short circuit somewhere and get hurt or not be able to lift as much. Right? That makes sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Right. So basically, and this is a natural position for the hand to grab something, right? This is a very useful task. Couldn't live without it. Couldn't be human beings without that. Okay, that's how we manipulate the tool. Now, when I don't have that, and I have this, That's an expression of excitement and happy? Yes. It's anger and frustration, right? Both polarities, you go here. This does not create a longitudinal load through the bone. You have a joint here that if I'm here and I'm repetitively doing this, I will inevitably damage this. And these are each on their own. And you'll tend to break one or two of these bones, okay? If I operate my body with intelligence and I pattern it so that I'm here, 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 this now creates that triangulation that now...
So you've got a fist, for those people who are listening, so you create a fist and
you create a fist where the middle finger becomes sort of the central axis point or central triangle,
right,
where the last digit is straight, and it's where you would snap the middle finger. Right. You see how it snaps flat?
Yeah.
The last digit is straight?
Yeah.
What you do is now you're pinning that into the palm and you're buttressing it. We call it backstopping in the martial science, where now I've got triangles. Triangles are the strongest geometric shape. Mm-hmm. Triangle. Because it just distributes it to the other angle. Right. So that right there creates a new opportunity that where tension in the hand actually increases the fluidity and mobility of the proximal joint, because I have a circuit through the skeleton where the flexor force, which is associated with the fear, and the extensor force, which is like the strong fight, they now cooperate. So you're taking, the reflex of like, and you're pinning that in to make you stronger and faster.
So is it like if it was this figure eight, let's say it was a pipe and there was fluids going through it, are you saying that by doing this, you're kind of allowing it to perfectly go, whereas if you're doing that, it kind of stops and it can't continue to...
Correct. Yes, you're cutting it off, do that. You're cutting off and breaking the circuit. This is where you will have the failure.
Okay.
And you cannot integrate the flexor strength with the extensor strength to the maximum degree.
Okay.
And it is a profound differential, such that if you squeeze this as hard as you can, the shoulder is clunky, it doesn't move well, it'll tend to click, it won't feel good. But you do this, oh, wow, it's unbelievable.
Right.
And you see, the reason I know this stuff is I invented the BOSU ball. And that, I worked my ass off for 3 years to get that thing into orbit, where it was just like, okay, I know this thing's gonna run forever now. I license it, mailbox money. What day is it? Don't matter. All right, what do you want to eat for dinner? What you want. Kids' college paid for. Takes a lot of stress off life. Not many people have that American dream, and I hit it, right? And I moved to San Diego. I don't surf because I can't be the best in the world. So why am I gonna waste any time in it? When I have to be the best, I'm competitive. And I'm not better than anybody at anything on this planet. You pick an activity, and there's another person who's better than me. Oh shit, what the hell am I gonna do?
What did you decide you wanted to be the best at then?
I want to be the world's foremost expert on the subject of balance measured by locomotion. That's what I said to myself when I invented the BOSU ball, and I recognized the opportunity that I would have all day, every day, for as many years as it takes, with an objective, measurable, tangible thing, which is called time. So A to B, is it faster or is it slower? Click, click. A to B to C, to D to E to F. Faster or slower?
And so in everything that you're looking at, and we could come onto your products in a bit, but whenever you look at something, a movement, a sport-specific outcome, are you thinking in this figure of eight, like conceptually, I'm trying to sort of dumb down a very complicated idea, but are you sort of thinking of this figure eight and looking at, okay, how can I create this movement or tools to perform that movement so that I've got the most efficient way of that figure eight? And is that figure eight, are you looking at that in the hands, in the arms, in the body, in the legs and the feet? Are there lots of these eights everywhere in your mind?
Yes, there are. And what I would say is you use the figure eight until you get across the river, and then you're no longer thinking figure of 8.
Okay.
So figure of 8, okay, got it, right? Figure of 8, okay, got it. The key is now, can you do it?
Okay.
And you have to do repetitions to do it. And that's why a simple length of rope is the Rosetta Stone. Because what does it do? It takes the organs of function, the smartest body part on the body except for some things on the face, are the hands. And the hands have the greatest capacity to do more things than anything else on the body. You could argue that the tongue and the mouth can do a lot too, but the hands can do more things. And more functional for getting things that you are able to put than things in your mouth that you need to do, right? So the rope integrates the figure of 8 distally, which now has influence on the proximal. And this is not a popular opinion, but it's going to become the only opinion, right, in time. I have a lot of confidence, which is earned. But there was an exercise that was sort of foisted upon the industry in 2007, right around that time frame. It was called the Palloff press. And the exercise is, okay, we know that the core doesn't generate power. We know that we have to be super stiff and stable, right? We know these things. Yeah, over here, but not over here. So what we're going to do is we're going to stand 50-50, perfectly flat. You're going to take a band here, and it's or tension here, and it's going to go directly here. And now I'm going to decrease my leverage advantage by bringing it out here. And it's doing this. And I'm 50-50, and I'm squeezing everything I've got. Okay, you're getting better at freezing and not having the capacity to funnel force to the ground. Because what this does is it uproots you. And in martial art, Tai Chi, they say never 50-50. Create the flat space, boom. The whole key to it is you got to pick a side if you're going to be moving well. And it changes when it's axial load. So axial load, very appropriate. Transverse, horrible.
In the type of
in
world
what you're programming your nervous system to do in the moments that matter, where millimeters and milliseconds are the difference between a catastrophic injury and a touchdown.
Right.
There are more non-contact injuries that are happening in sports at the highest level. It's epidemic. Now, train all these guys with the intensity and the authority of the peer-reviewed science. Weck, oh, he's a quack. Snake oil salesman, charlatan. He made the BOSU ball, that little sissy tool. That is what we're up against, is the male ego and the fascination with strength and size. And because I don't have the strength
But
and size.
you don't disagree with strength and size?
No, I want bigger, faster, stronger, of course.
But are you saying then that
What I'm
strength
saying-
and size comes after the...
No. What I'm
Okay.
saying is your ability to utilize the strength and the size functionally is what counts.
Okay.
Okay, I don't care how strong you are. If you're doing Palloff presses and you don't know what I know, I will beat you up. I don't care how big you are. I will beat you up. Fight and flight. I'm faster than a lot of 25-year-olds. I'm 53, and I'm not powerful. I got a replaced hip. I'm not flexible. I'm not big. I'm not strong. Technique. I use every ounce of my being to be here and now with confidence and authority that you're not going to beat me up.
Yeah.
And in crisis, I'm useful. Right? I'll put you on my shoulders. I'll carry you as far as you need to go. Why? Because I know how to be balanced. There's something called the same side stride.
What's that?
Same side stride is I got to carry something heavy.
Okay.
Oh, I'm going to put it on this shoulder. That's the high side. It stays the high side. I'm going to keep my head over this foot. And when it's on the ground, I'm balanced. And now, because of that spiral and that, now I can lift this foot and I'm still balanced. So I don't have to change. Boom, boom, boom. And this is something that you will figure out if your intellect doesn't get in the way.
But it sounds fairly logical from a, if you looked at it from a mechanical perspective, if you were building a machine.
It is complete common sense and logic if you allow yourself to go there. The problem is everybody needs permission because when you're younger, at least when I grew up, bullying was mostly physical, right? more than the emotional. And then when you get older, it's emotional and intellectual is how you bully people. And it's a bully culture. Why is it that there's so much righteous indignation for the social media posts? Oh, that guy's an idiot. You have a financial incentive to have a unique selling proposition, and when you have the full authority of the science community, right? Oh, this is peer-reviewed. You're saying anecdote. That means that we won't even talk to you. We're not going to consider, right? You didn't publish 25,000 papers, right? And this is literally... What happened is in 2007, to part and parcel of this narration that we needed to be stiff, to be stable and strong, to move, well, to buttress that argument, suddenly unstable surfaces were the devil because you can't be as braced and super stiff and strong on an unstable surface. And a BOSU ball is famous, whereas, some wobble board is not.
Well, explain. So let's do this. Explain the opposite then. So let's make an argument for being strong and stable. So just for me, I'm obviously not on your level, or I'm trying to understand it on a very basic level. So the argument for strong and stable is what? The research and the peer review.
I call strength pressure management. I equate strength with pressure management because that's essentially what it is.
Right.
So in an axial loaded situation where I am picking up something heavy,
right,
which is how you put the body under the greatest stress of pressurization, right? Get in the bottom of your squat and just gas out. You can get hurt. You're not going to lift as much. So the heavy weight is to send a signal to the nervous system that, okay, there's pressure and I can rigidify and stabilize, and now I am honking strong. And I want to do that, and I want to do it as best as I possibly can.
And there's going to be situations where you probably need to have that ability.
The ability to pressurize is not contingent on the spine being stiff and straight and immovable.
Right.
If I'm going to punch you and I'm going to hit and there's going to be a pulse of pressure that makes my force just, boom, penetrate you. If my spine is stiff and straight, I can't create that force.
Right.
So it's never appropriate when you're running around and anytime that you're doing something athletic, yes, you're going to pressurize. Right. Yes, you're going to use all that strength. But you're not going to keep your spine perfectly rigid and straight because it doesn't generate power. Right. And this was dogmatically thrust down the throats of the fitness industry.
What about if you are doing a sport? So let's say you are a powerlifter. I saw you had a
Donnie Thompson. I make the strongest powerlifters in the world stronger because I go side center.
Right.
Side center optimizes the side with the fullest range of functional rotation that can be had by a human being, and you get that on both sides. And guess what? Now you can pack the bilateral a couple millimeters more. Oh, I'm stronger. The reason why Chris Chamberlain works with me is because he came in this lab. I taught him for 5 minutes these principles. He went back and he did a 40-pound PR in the bent press that he'd been struggling with for weeks. Oh, okay. That guy knows what he's talking about. And he wasn't encumbered by the dogma. He's not afraid. He doesn't need permission to use his own common sense and his own experience to know something. Then he came in the next time and I gave him the rope and I said, learn these 4 patterns. He voraciously devoured the 4 patterns. And the next thing he did, he bought a pair of nunchucks and all these plastic weapons because he's like, holy shit, I can now have fun. It's the Rosetta Stone, right? But again, the bully culture. Oh, I'm strong. I remember when I was that guy. I broke my elbow when I was 16 years old and I lost function. I can't hold 20 pounds above my head because I don't have a triceps. That led to a hip replacement because my whole life playing football, I had to tie in my lat to make up for the fact that I don't even have a tricep. Okay. And if that didn't happen, I could be some meathead gorilla telling you all the bullshit too.
So if you had to say the optimal then, it would be it would be having the movement combined with the strength. Is that right?
That's my happy.
Okay,
that's my happy place. Okay, that's what both sides utilized.
Right.
See, I went to Chinese acupuncture school. The thing about inventing the BOSU ball is do whatever you want, dude. You get the time and the money. Oh, fly to China. Oh, fly to New York and study with this guy. Oh, take this course. Oh, go to Chinese acupuncture school. Okay. If you look at the Eastern philosophy, what they do is they just simplify it down to yin and yang. From the Wu Qi, the ethereal, we create the Tai Chi, and the Tai Chi is night and day, hot and cold, soft and hard, fast and slow. And the cycle of life continues, right? In the Western, reductionist, okay, molecular precision, what you get to is you get to quantum physics. You get to the uncertainty principle of, I don't know if it's here or here. Well, guess what? The vessel that is trying to figure out where the hell the thing is doesn't know if it's here or here. It changed places. Oh, it's different. Oh, quantum mechanics. Oh, yin and yang. Right? I mean, do you see how simple this actually is? Now, our education system and our socio-political, economic, situation, it's wonderful, but there are shortcomings. And the shortcoming is that the autonomy of the individual to have true confidence is being drained. Sit in a row. Don't speak unless you're spoken to. Write with your right hand. I'm going to hit you with this stick, you don't do that. I mean, this is where it comes from. Because the robber barons of old said, okay, let's put them in these things so that we got obedient, useful factory workers. And you tell a different story. Tell me I'm wrong, right? You see, I have an extremely high-powered intellect. Like, I was fucking around on Mensa, on the internet back in like 2003. Like, okay, let me do this. Would you like to join Mensa? I can put my mind to something and my mind can figure it out. My mind can do it, and I think extremely fast. My metabolism is so fast that I was eating 4 tubs of Ben & Jerry's every day for 8 months. Some days 5, some days 6, and one day 7, okay? Ben & Jerry's. It was 2 pistachio and 2 everything but the. And I was eating that every day, and I was very happy because the next morning, I didn't have to eat. I could just drink coffee, and I didn't have to eat until later in the day. I'd have some meat, some vegetables, and at night, I'd eat my Ben & Jerry's. I stopped because my fingers and toes started to go numb, and the blood sugar and the diabetes was knocking on the door. So, okay.
Why did you start that?
What's that?
Why did you decide to start with that?
Because ice cream is like, it's...
I know how good it is.
It tastes great. And if I'm not getting fat doing it,
well,
what's the cost, right? Well, the cost is internal. All that milk, fat, and sugar turns out that, and the everything but that has all the crap in it. Because you got candy bars in there where they put the poison, right? So it's not just the pure cream and sugar. So my point is that I want to take what God gave me and I want to optimize it. And I lined up a shot by saying I want to be the world's foremost authority on the subject of balance measured by locomotion. Balance equals coordination, task specific. I want gait. I want the fundamental functional movement. And if I can make that better by teaching you how to do it with the program, the methodology and the tools, well, then my win is your win. Oh, I like that. It's a win-win. And the only people who lose, it's a temporary loss.
Yeah, because surely, like you talk about cream, surely the
I'm
cream's
telling you
going
right
to
now,
rise to the top.
Well, but what I'm saying is that this industry is about to uplift like it's never uplifted before. Human beings are going to have the capacity to be stronger than we've ever known because we have the technology. We have all the nutrition science. Chemistry is a hard science. Biomechanics is the softest science there is because the experts are fundamentally wrong.
But when you have a lot of athletes that come here,
Yes.
from what I understand, surely the results speak for themselves, or
Correct.
does that
Correct.
get ignored?
Yes, of course it does.
Oh, really?
Of course it does.
Okay.
There's a financial interest and a reputation interest to ignore David Weck. There is.
Do you use it, does it fire you or does it frustrate you?
Both for sure. But I guess, got to give the devil his due, because I guess without all of that, injustice, I can't stand injustice. I can't stand it. I need honesty. I need truth. I just can't stand the dishonesty. So the idea that I had was, I'm going to train myself with the foundation of fight and flight, which are two sides of the same coin, because it boils down to survival.
What do you mean when you say, because I wrote this down about
Yes.
the Weck method, what do you mean when you train yourself on fight and flight?
Okay, so locomotion, flight, is not just how fast, how far, how long, right? Those tangible measurables. It is also, can you even get there in the face of opposition?
Okay.
So suddenly flight has to have fight in order to keep flying.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And it turns out that the biomechanical principles that keep you alive in the face of opposition that wants to end it, that is advantageous for flight because it's balanced. You have to be ready now. Thinking is too slow, and you have to be ready. You have to be right now ready. If we wanted to go sprint right now, all right, there's a fire, we need to get there. I don't need to foam roll, I don't need to warm up and shoot me in the leg, and I'll still get there fast because I know how to make it, so I don't got to use that muscle right now because I know movement, I know it. And I believe I know it better than anybody else in the world has ever known it.
So how do you just, and I'm going slightly to the side on this one. So you say, I get that. Like if you need to do something, you haven't got time to foam roll and stretch, etc. You just need to go.
Right now,
how
ready.
do you do that? Like you're a 53-year-old guy, and obviously, things are not quite the same as where they were when you were 25. How do you get that, auto start where it's fired up and you're gone?
How do you get it is you understand and operate with true balance. Okay, so the big cat doesn't foam roll. The big cat gesticulates. Oh, let me send that pressure. Oh, yeah, okay. Let me go back to sleep because I'm gonna eat tonight. One of the cues that I tell my athletes when I'm teaching them how to coil and I'm teaching them how to position their head so they have the best balance possible, and I say, who's going to eat tonight? Don't even imagine that you're starving. Imagine that someone you love the most is starving. How patient are you going to be? How persistent are you going to be? How poised to pounce when it counts, and you're going to eat tonight? Are you going to eat tonight? Is your kid going to eat tonight? You tell me. I was an actor, and the key to good acting is raise the stakes. It's not really interesting to see nothing happening. But if the stakes are like, oh my God, well, then it suddenly gets interesting, doesn't it? And if you're going to train, intent is everything. When you get to end range of motion, the intent doesn't end. And so this logo right here, the BOSU logo, it's not about a half ball. It's about your brain, it's about your body. It's about just everything finding that balance. It's both sides utilized.
And I suppose that applies to everything, I suppose it's right.
Cardinal directions, intercardinal directions, 8 slices of pizza pie, here we go. I now know mathematically precise, cardinal, intercardinal. And the rope teaches you this. And it teaches it at the subcortical level. You use your forebrain to make a good decision. You use your midbrain, sensory motor cortices, to focus on attaining that which is smart. And then it reduces down to the cerebellum, which you don't got to think no more. I just react because my body knows it.
So what's the connection for you between the body and the mind then?
The body and the mind, the body is the root system for the brain. That's my...
Roots, okay.
It's the root system. It's the feedback system, the brain. The brain is controlling everything. And think of your eyes. Your eyes are like, this is Australia. You know what I'm saying? This might be Manhattan, but that's Australia. It's an entire continent devoted to your eyeballs are actually brain matter that's coming to the surface, being washed in this salty little thing so that they don't dry out. That's what your eyes are.
I've never heard of that before, but I like that.
That's what your eyes, but that's what they are. And do an anatomy app where you just see the eyes, you don't see the face. It's weird. It's really weird, right? It's the eyes. That's how we identify what it is that we want or we need. And we use them to navigate the world. And if we don't have them, well, now we sort of, through a synesthetic phenomenon, we are able to translate what this function is to maybe even something where I can click and echolocate and ride a bike and I'm blind. There's a kid who can do that. We have so much more capacity than we know.
So do you think we've got internalize as well?
What's that?
Internal, meaning...
Yes, okay, so what we have to do is we have to optimize polarities to gain the greatest capacity through the whole thing, through the middle. If I'm stuck at 30 and I'm stuck at 70, I can't operate fully. But if I can get to 0, I can get to 100. And that's why this logo right here, think of a number line and think of infinity, all right? So it just never, ever ends. But the number line also has the negative direction. So it's infinite and it's infinitesimal. And the infinitesimal defines the intent. So if you know the key points about which you're going to spiral and create the greatest fascial length possible, if I reach up as high as I possibly can, I am not as fascially long and strong and integrated as if I spiral the end. This right here, it is infinitesimal here. So I reached end range of motion, can't go anywhere. The intent is still spiraling. And I could literally take the entire body and just whip it around. Give a man a lever that is correct and move the whole world. And when you can define the central axis as like getting so inside the center, inside the Russian dolls, keep going, right? Now you're...
I suppose like that. What's that shell called? The Nautilus?
Yes, Fibonacci. I mean, listen, I've gone to places, trust me. And I'll tell you this too. One of my madnesses is I play this sort of what I'll call a phonetic wordplay. So I'll take words that sort of mean something to everyone that we can all agree upon, and then I'll change the meaning so that I can harness that meaning to inspire and inform me to get greater value of the word. And 117, the number 117, okay? All right, 117, right? Okay, big deal, right? Okay, so for me, what that is it's my birthday, January 17, 117. Okay, there's a connection that helps me attach more significance to that number. I'm in my backyard about, months into rolling the rope with the rope flow, and I'm out there doing all this stuff. Not jumping, unifying, integrating, and it just dawned on me. I'm like, wow, this must have been how David did it. Must have been how he killed Goliath. Because you give me all day, every day, and I put a rock at the end of this thing, I'll make that thing go 200 miles an hour, and then I'll learn how to sling it. I can do it so much better, right? Okay, so I went in my bedroom, and I got the Bible, and I want to read the story now. I've never read the Bible story of David and Goliath. Got to find it, right? Okay, go in the index. All right, Samuel. 1 Samuel 17. 1 7. Ooh, Boondock Saints. Literally, it was literally the light and whoa. And here's my phonetic game. 1 Samuel 17. 1 Samuel 17. 1 W-O-N. 1 W-O-N. Samuel. One's heaven. One's heaven. Oh, now it has more significance. Oh, come to learn that San Diego longitude on the map 117.
Wow.
Ah. You see how all you need, where there is the will, there is the way. Roger Bannister breaks the 4-minute mile. Your heart was supposed to explode. You can't run the 4-minute mile. He runs the 4-minute mile. The next year, there's more than 100 people breaking 4 minutes. Suddenly, the governor limiting the flea circus that bang their head on the glass. It's gone. Bang, jump higher. Self-limiting beliefs. Because we learn by osmosis. It's the mirror neurons. You didn't study English, neither did me. We got positive reinforcement when we started copying the people around us. If you're born in China, you speak Chinese, and you're born in Australia, you speak English. All funny in a boot. Canada, you say a boot. America, you say about. Say it, right? We learn by inference. We learn. That's the most powerful form of learning. And that is the foundation for now leveling up and building more advanced and sort of esoteric, less tangible learning.
But you must, like,
it's
I guess,
the biomechanics.
with the way your mind works, and we'll come back to the original question at the beginning, you must need, I suppose you have to be my guess is you have to be quite careful to stick to kind of resort back to certain principles to prevent, because the way, I'm just following your thought process and it's extremely exciting, but I guess if you're not careful, you can just be in outer space very, very quickly.
Oh man, a lot of it I don't remember, but I remember enough that,
So do you use numbers to, in some way, bring you back to reality?
Let's put it this way. It's both sides. I use numbers to say 2 + 2 is 4, and I'm certain of that.
Yeah.
Right? It's the only, mathematics is precise, and there can be no debate that 2 + 2 is 4.
Yeah.
Okay, so, thank God, right? Christian and a Muslim, they're going to different hells and heavens because they're never going to agree.
Yeah.
Flight is objective. We can time it. Fight is subjective. A beats B, B beats C, C beats A, my master's better than you, Ali, Mayweather, So we need the tangible. That's what numbers give me.
Certainty.
But, yes, stability. Yay, stability. Right? I also use numbers where I equate them with the letters, okay? So I use a cipher where I take the alphabet and I go A through M.
Right.
And A is 1, B is 2, C is 3, on up to G, which is 7, G is 7, and then I count down, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. M is 1, right? So now, the next 13 letters, N to Z, it's the same, 1 up to 7, down to 1. So now I have my 117 cipher. Back to the 117, back to the 117, okay? So you can see that I can add them up and have concrete certainty, but I can manipulate them and use them phonetically to make it to the place where it takes me into the crazy. Yeah. So you see how I can do either one with them, and this one's far more fun to do, and I wouldn't be able to concretely tell you head over foot, coiling core, both sides. I wouldn't be able to tell you the simple reality of how we may enable, fortify, and strengthen a human being to move their best with balance, efficiency, not compensatory, less than productive tension, painful tension, right? So that going into the ethereal of the word math itself, if you do my cipher, the word math, okay, the certainty that we have is 1176. The Star of David is 6. See what I'm saying?
So how deep do you, in order to go out in one side, and I don't know if you get me, how do you have to go equally deep on the math side?
No.
To balance?
I have two brothers who are like math wizards. I think they have that same Weck high-powered intellect, but theirs is here.
But is there?
They're not here at all.
No, but is there a balance in terms of like when you're thinking about things? Like,
Yes.
is there a balance between the certainty that you can, the numbers, let's call it that, so I can,
Sure.
and the creativity in like, because you can go like really over here.
Yes.
And but do you sort of have to have a certain amount of balance on here with your ideas for them to sort of when you get that sort of equilibrium, those are the things that generally kind of move forward in the right way.
The lighthouse on the shore that
Yeah.
never changes is, are you faster or not from A to B?
Right.
Right, so that's my concrete reality, is that I have a clock and I have a distance and I can time it.
Right, okay.
Okay, and if I always come back to that, no matter how far off course you may have gone, but no, keep that in mind so you don't go very far off course, right? So, okay, boom, that's my tangible reality, that is a fact. 958, Usain Bolt, that's the fastest we got on the clock so far.
Okay.
And I'm gonna help the next guy beat it. I just got a connection to the guy I believe who probably has the greatest chance. And when he sees this podcast, and when the industry sees this podcast, this is a huge sort of stepping stone to the next level where we can just, the emperor's clothes, let's dress him in something nice. Let's not all pretend that naked is clothed, right? Because again, the Fosbury flop in the high jump, 1968, Mexico City, here's this guy, he's gangly, he ain't the best athlete in the competition, but he's doing a new technique we've never seen before that we're gonna make fun of. We're gonna say it doesn't work. We're gonna try to outlaw it. He goes over backward and he wins the gold medal and he sets the world record. 4 years later, the gold medal is not as high and it's the old technique. Okay. You see what I'm saying? Now, all I got to do to the exercise guy now, the scientist who's led us astray, what you going to look like in hindsight now? Because you already looked that way. You already told me that I'm nuts. I'm the snake oil. I'm the charlatan, right? You already said that. Who said what when? Boom! Okay, internet's forever. But we're going to forgive you. Get on board. Join the team, baby. You got tons to contribute. It's not that everything's bad. They do a ton of good things. It's just you cannot optimize if you're not on the first principles physics. Can't optimize. And the bully culture, the economic, financial consequences of being an expert or not. I mean, in other professions, you know, the drug company that finds out that what they did was killing people, and we're going to bury that. Oh, the emails. Hit the phone with a hammer. Get rid of the emails, right? Where is Jeffrey Epstein's client list? What are we waiting for? You see what I'm saying? Like, I believe that technology is and has always been the savior for humanity. Technology. Oh shit, the big cats are getting us. Okay, take a stick, sharpen it, dip it into that shit that's poisonous, hit it. Okay, we got right to the point. I'm alive. It couldn't kill me. That's called technology, right? So what I'm praying for and working for is that technology, the artificial intelligence, can be put to the task of enhancing the human condition. Imagine a world where you don't have to drive a UPS truck unless you want to, because the thing's going to do it. Imagine a world where I don't got to sweep the shit up off the street. That a machine does that. Imagine, there's a drought. No, there's not. All right, we're from. Imagine that world. Imagine the world where it's about this. Now suddenly, snap your fingers, the incentive to cheat your neighbor disappears. I don't got to put a box of cereal with poison in it because it'll last forever. And I can sell you an apple. An apple's going to get rotten a week from now. Go. If I want to make money in food, that shit's got to be in inventory. And if I didn't sell it, okay, I can't throw it out because then I'm not making money. You see what I mean? That we have, and physical education is the fundamental education. And you can't bullshit physical education. Think about it. 10 push-ups is 10 push-ups, 11 push-ups, 11 push-ups. You told us you could do 11, but you only did 10. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
While I can sit there in my little science room and tell you, oh, no, I have a scientific study that you need to do this. Oh, and then I try to come along and say, excuse me, emperor's clothes. Come on. That's not balance. Oh, he's anecdotal. Right? I mean, it should be so, and it will be.
So if I go back to your beginning thing where we were talking about the balance and your sort of experience with marijuana and coming up with some of these things, my guess is that also took you a bit out of balance. So you came up with this insight. Is that right? So like,
oh God.
So how do you then take the journey that sort of took you on, which there was obviously some took you to somewhere which was pretty unique in your journey, but also it took you out as well in a way.
Huge cost.
Right.
Yeah, huge cost.
So what have you learned from that then?
I have 2 kids, and if God said to me, you get to pick your eternity, choose wisely. It's not a red Corvette and pretty girl, because that eventually won't fulfill me. Sense of smell is my most powerful sense for me. I would tell God that I want the scent and inhalation of my daughter, and then I want the scent and inhalation of my son, and if I can only pick one thing, that's what I want. I want love.
That's right, man.
I'm sorry. It's just, that's what I want. I'm a sensitive person. I'm very, very sensitive, which makes me a very rageful person. The heart can be harmed, and the heart, the resonance of the heart is just so much more like radiant than the resonation of the brain, the resonation of the different cells, right? The heart, it's the heart. And I do all of this for, sorry.
No, it's...
No, sorry. Okay, back to it. I do all of this for my legacy because I'm a narcissist. I'm a big narcissist, but I'm an altruistic narcissist. It's not malignant. It's not malignant. And I was on Instagram a couple years back after I invented the propulsors. I'm like, oh my God, this is the most counterintuitive thing that you could ever imagine, where I can add mass, non-contractile mass, to the distal extremity, no less, and teach a human being how to run faster with it. Every single athlete that we have trained, every single one of them can run up a set of stairs faster with them than without them. And I'm always asking them, like, okay, guys, if I were to punish you and say we're doing 20 rounds of that, do you want them or do you not want them? We want them, we want them. The fact that the industry hasn't recognized that, now I'm looking at it as sort of like pitiful, but there's a tremendous rage. And especially when you vilified my BOSU ball. 1 million BOSU balls, let's do some math, the concrete math. 1 million BOSU balls, $100 a BOSU ball, easy numbers to work with. That's $100 million. Now, you convince every single strength coach in the NCAA, the pro weight rooms, the ones whose work rains down and it informs everybody else's work, and you convince them that this stupid, silly little gimmick makes their athletes weaker, and you convince them with a scientific authority. That's $100 million that, maybe it's more than 1 million. We're talking 2007 now. What is 1 million BOSU balls every year? How many millions of dollars do I not have as a resource to make this a better world?
Can you allow that to...
let me just tell you. What happened was the pulsars, I've just invented something that I spent 4 times more money on that patent. I presented a theory of operation with that patent that if I'm not right, the patent's invalidated. It's a big risk. But because I went that specific, because I know what it is, I got that patent granted without a rejection. That never happens. And if it does happen, your attorney was a fool because, I'll pay you $100,000. I was going to ask him for 20. You see what I mean? You didn't ask for enough if you don't get rejected in the patent game. But that one, no rejection. There's no argument against it because I have the science, the real science of reality.
But
now, let me just say, the BOSU bashers, okay? The smart, the more educated, the first earners who have been convinced that the BOSU ball is trash, worse than trash, it'll make you weaker. I have propulsors. I was like, I am going to shove these down their throat. I was on Instagram. I had a beard. I was, doing THC like crazy. I had 2 pairs of glasses. I was angry and I was making waves. I deleted more than 5,000 posts off my Instagram because I don't want the next, I'm not whatever, it happened, okay, I'm sorry. But I don't want the next person to meet that David Weck.
Right.
I want the next person to see a guy who comports himself well, articulates intelligently, has a lot of empathy for issues and problems, and only wants to help. So now I take a different approach, but it's
Was that useful though? Was that period like going
it exercised a lot of rage and a lot of demons for me. So what I would say is this. I'm a Jersey kid and I got a chip on my shoulder. Joe DeFranco, he knows I had the whole podcast with him about the Jersey just is. I think New Jersey's the toughest state in the country. I think it's one of the toughest places, like New Jersey. That's where New York goes when they need it to happen, right? Is New Jersey, right? So I'm that. You got to kill me because I'm never going to quit. Like that. So I think it was useful because it allowed me to take the rage and make it infinitesimal, to bring it inside and to take the coal and the tar and the dark and be so angry and so just, it is unfair. Human beings are suffering and we're not doing what it takes to make it better. And by not denying that anger, but actually like, okay, I compressed it into a diamond. Mm-hmm. And that's how I look at it. And when the whole world is making every step stronger, that's a crystal, pure diamond, hardest structure on planet Earth, and all rage is gone.
How would you feel if that didn't happen until, like, let's say 10 to 20 years after you were gone? Which could be the case.
Only if I got hit by a bus now, and I've already been at it to 20 years.
Oh, yeah, I know.
Right?
And I know when BOSU came out, and I know at the time where people's mindset were.
It was received very well when it first came out.
But there was there were 2 camps. There was a mix.
Yeah.
But
nothing like 2007.
No, but today, I would say that, the traditional industry that we all know and, the places and people we know, I think people understand it a lot more than what they did then. It was probably understood on a very different level for different reasons.
Yeah, I would say so.
It's almost taken all that time to get to a place where it's almost like, okay, that's accepted.
No. It depends on where you are, the niche and the little echo chamber that you have. But the most influential echo chamber in the fitness world is the science.
Okay.
Scientific method, where would we be without it? And if I can lord over you because I'm the science, well, then I have the most influence. And listen, I just posted 20 posts on Twitter, okay? I went on Twitter because I realized that's where the conversation is. It's not on Instagram. Instagram is abs and that stuff. Twitter is, okay, let's get down to it. Who's the smartest man in the room with the best information, right? That's what it is. Okay, I just posted 20 posts on Twitter that are undeniable. I did it in a way that's like, okay, and the revenge is I want to forgive people, and my revenge is they get better doing what I taught them.
But can you accept, like, that people may not, those people may never decide to accept that?
No, the money. If you, listen, a lot of these facilities right now that have been sort of indoctrinated, anti-rotation, yay, let's do a chop without doing our core, yay, it's stupid exercise. And they're going to try to justify it and stuff, but it will no longer be financially viable to do that because information goes fast. And once you get that critical mass, boom, it changes. The cliff at Sunset Cliffs over here in San Diego, it does not erode at some steady pace. A big storm comes in, boom, power law, fundamentally different tomorrow than it was yesterday. That's what's going to happen. It's going to happen relatively soon. And I know that. I can feel that because critical mass. The way it works is you either need to aggregate a massive number, or you need to get like the most, if Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson were to say, hey, Weck is right, snap your fingers, we're at critical mass. Now, he only picks up the phone apparently if you pay him. I ain't paying him. This is a trading kind. That made you stronger, Rock. Yeah, that's right. So we are at that point where enough quality people are doing enough things that are like, oh my God. And so 23, I believe, is the year where core training turns into this, and it's no longer this.
But is that your goal? Is that what's driving you, like, for that acceptance and acknowledgement of the idea? Because, like, I guess there's enough people that do agree and know, and it's logical. Anyone listening to this would have a hard trouble unless they're attached to a particular belief system, not to sort of say, well, that makes sense. Sometimes you get.
But this is a case of this. What I've done is we're on the schoolyard. Okay, I've created enough of a buzz that enough people in the class, in the school, are now looking. Okay. Bring the bullies out to the center of the field. Okay, I'm going to punch him in the nose, and there's nothing he can do about it, okay? He was bullying all of you, right? And you were, obediently obeying because you don't want to be ostracized. Public speaking, very terrifying because, they're judging me, right? So now I get to pull the bullies out, and this is all intellectual. It's all metaphorical. But I get to literally say to the bully, I don't need to punch you in the face, but I will if you want me to, right? Do you want me to beat you up in front of all these people so that now they don't fear you anymore? Or do you want to just we can do it the easy way, we can do it the hard way. And bullying, it's just part of human nature, I think. And so what I'm doing is I'm being the equitable bully to take the guys who are bullying us intellectually into having to acquiesce, because no one's going to come to your seminar if you're telling them that anti-rotation is the key to athletic movement. That worked in the past when there was ignorance abound. It will not work in the very near future. And this podcast is a big... When I met Mark Bell...
Yeah, I watched the video.
Let me tell you the story here. So... Ben Patrick, knees over toes guy, okay? I believe that he may have achieved the greatest athletic transformation in the history that we know, because vertical jump is extremely difficult to improve. Now, you're out of college, you're in your mid-20s, late 20s, and you can barely touch the rim. You do an exercise program, and suddenly you're chipping your teeth on the rim. You're squatting down and dunking behind your back. That is the ultimate credibility that I want to see. The problem with movement coaches is most of them do not move well. I'm talking about the thought leaders. They don't move well. I'm a broken, beat-up, failed power lifter, so now I'm a coach. Okay, great. You read some books and you positioned yourself well, and now you run a kid factory where you exploit the affluent suburban families who send their kids to you at 3 p.m. and pick them up at 5:30. And you run them through the gauntlet doing, the stuff you teach at your seminar. And they do a lot of good stuff, but they do stuff. If you serve me dinner and it's the best dinner ever and there's a little piece of feces on the plate, well, the presentation sort of ruined the whole thing for me. Why is that on the plate? Why? Right? So I'm just putting pressure on them, which is a positive form of peer pressure.
Is that a positive? So let me ask you this question then. Okay, and we're talking about balance.
Yep.
Like putting the energy and the lab and the ideas and that there's a lot of energy. There's a lot of mind space, and there's a lot of thought processes that go into that. And equally, and I've been guilty of this, when you're also sort of dealing with it sounds like, you know, the arguments and the debates and these sort of peers that you're not agreeing with, that takes a lot of energy. Because, you know, even just putting something together and constructing it and making an argument and responding, you know, there's a lot of energy that goes into
Tremendous amount.
How do you balance the good that you're doing? Because there's a lot of people that are seeing this and improving, and you're influencing a lot of people. How do you balance the energy that you put into that to move things forward, and the energy you put into that that's kind of dragging you down and maybe sort of almost like taking useful energy away from these people here? How do you do that?
An athletic advantage becomes an athletic necessity by definition. So if I am correct that I have providing the world with a new athletic advantage, and many more than one, by the way, well, then it becomes a necessity. Fosbury didn't campaign for his technique very well. He never made money on that technique. 8 years later, they did the Fosbury flop. They ain't never done nothing since, and they ain't never going to do nothing different forever. The only thing now left to do is nuance. That's it. So an athletic advantage becomes an athletic necessity. So I could be anybody. It doesn't matter who I am. I could be nice. I could be mean. I could be handsome. I could be ugly. I could be green, blue, purple. Don't matter. If I am correct that you engaging in the stuff that I am teaching creates an athletic advantage for you, you care about you. You don't care about me. So if I'm providing you something that is a God's honest advantage to you, the chips will fall where they will fall. So all that negative space and all that negative stuff, that is actually an accelerant for this happening over here. And the fact that this is happening over here is just applying pressure to here.
Is that how you use it? Do you use that to say, okay,
what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to say, guys, we need to build on a foundation that's true. And balance is the one athletic quality that enhances every other by definition. It's the most valuable thing that there is balance. And it's been mustered, balance, yeah, I'm training balance, No! There's the controlling chaos, that is one side of balance, and then there is the integration of fluidity and movement and the ability to transfer your weight with true balance. That's balance. So you have the chaotic control, that's reflexes, womp, womp, that's that. And then there is the rehearsal that you know how to change your weight with zero compensation that is not productive. There's two sides of it. And the only side that these guys were focused on was the chaotic part. And dance class or any of these other things, right? I was a guy who used to ridicule it. I'm going to be honest. I was a football guy, go by the aerobics room, never go in there. What the hell, right? I'm going bang weights. I play football. I don't need that silly dance class, doing... You know what I mean? A long time ago, Dallas Cowboys were doing ballet, right? So I quit gymnastics when I was 6 years old because in my town, if you did gymnastics and they found out, you were going to get beat up. Certainly couldn't, play in the baseball space and all these spaces if you did gymnastics. And it's just where I grew up. Very tough. You know how the New Jersey mullet came to be? I have a theory. When I was in 8th grade in next year's high school, I'm a big fish and I'm going to be a tiny fish next year because there's guys 4 years bigger than me, right? We had a phenomenon when I was growing up called capping, where someone would come up to you from behind and they would slap your neck, and the objective was to make it as loud as you possibly can and leave finger marks in a welt, okay? It was just a phenomenon that, you walked around like that. So what I did in 8th grade is I grew my hair long in the back and it was regular on top. Why? Because it was a defense mechanism from being capped. I've
never heard that story before.
Well, that's my story. That's why I had a New Jersey mullet. Certainly wasn't for fashion, right? I got a theory on the deadlift. The very first deadlift, it's a Friday afternoon. It's 3:30 in the afternoon. We got to leave at 5. We're in the grain shop. We're bored as hell. Nobody's coming in. We've got to stay here. There's a wagon wheel and axis out in the back. You think you can lift that up? I don't know. You think you can lift? I'll bet you $20 you can't pick it up. Okay, let's go. You have your first perfectly balanced, cylindrical weights with a perfect straight bar. You figure out, oh, that's going to work better. And you have the world's first true deadlift. Tell me another story that's better.
That's a good story.
Yeah, I think it's true.
Well, they do that now. Some of the strongman competitions actually have that same setup now.
Well, of course. I mean, what other scenario could it have been invented?
Well, and with me being ignorant about sports and athletics, unless there's a particular athletic requirement to do that kind of lift something up the floor as heavy as possible and put it down again, which I can't think of anything.
I'm talking about the truest balanced, perfectly balanced implement.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Why would you do it
first
for
of
anything
all,
else?
Before metallurgy, it didn't exist. Where in nature is a barbell with two perfectly balanced
that's what I mean.
weights?
Why would you do it?
Same height, perfectly straight. You know what I mean? Where are you going to find that unless you make it? And when was the
what
first?
What about the bench press then? Where would that come from then?
Bench press? It's just the competitive nature of human beings.
Would that be a progression of the guys with the wheel?
Definitely. Yeah, once you figure out that you can do that, who can do that, right? Okay. And this starts before on the bench, and then, I don't know, maybe you hurt your leg or something, so lay down on the bench and do it, right? I haven't figured out the exact
We'll keep
way.
Working on that.
Yeah, I will, yeah. But I think deadlift came first. And derivative of that was overhand, and then squat, and then eventually bench press, and then eventually curl, and those kind of things. And tell me a better story that makes sense. I got a funny one. Malcolm Gladwell. I love his books. Right? His books have helped me navigate life more successfully. The Tipping Point.
Yeah, great
Outliers.
Story. Love it.
Right? I mean, these things are real. But David and Goliath. Don't make David and Goliath this oaf who's blind, don't do that to Goliath. You've ruined the story for me. I want Goliath to be so big and so bad that he truly can't beat him. Isn't that a better story?
So is that you? Are you the David and Goliath then?
If you go in my gym, you will see busts of Michelangelo's David over there. You see it in the corner right there? Up there in the top?
I can't.
Above the wall?
My eyes are not great.
Okay. Well, anyway, later you'll go in the gym. There's a bust of David.
Okay.
Go in the back wall. There's a big mural on the wall of David. So I'm not him, but I aspire to be like him. And I've already made my mistakes, and I'm not gonna sleep with somebody else's wife and kill them. So he did some worse things than I will ever do.
So what do you want to be? What do you want to be remembered by? What would you like when we're sort of watching this in however many years' time and you're no longer still amongst us? What do you want to be remembered for?
Well, one thing I want to be remembered for is I want to be the guy who helped the world walk stronger with balance. Just boom. If you give me that crown, you don't need to give me anything else. And I would like to also be, Paige and Ryan's dad. And hopefully, more. But that's what I care about. It's tangible, and I believe it's happening. So it's a very exciting time. And I don't think in terms of Democrat, Republican, blue team, red team, that kind of stuff. I don't like to think of that. What I like to think of is just reduce it down to good and evil. Okay, good and evil. And you sort of can't have one without the other, in a way, because everything, relativity, is 100 degrees hot or cold? Well, it depends what we're referencing. 1,000 degrees is hot, well, 100 is kind of cold. 0 degrees is cold, well, 100 degrees is kind of hot, right? So it's all contextual. And so there's a battle between good and evil, in my eyes. I was an actor, and what you do as an actor is you read the scene or the drama, whatever you're acting, and you have to play the character. So the first step is you say, okay, well, if I were that character, what would I do? Because that's your tangible reference jumping off point. So what are the circumstances, and what would I do? And then, okay, piece together what would the character do? And so because I'm narcissistic and I have had a messianic complex that I don't want to be Jesus, I want to be God. I'm just being honest. I went there and got beat up hard. So if I'm God, right, let's just say, I would want to create creators who can do things that pass the time enjoyably. No beginning, no end. I know everything. Shoot me now. Give me something, surprise me. Do Breaking Bad. Do Breaking Bad. You know what I mean? Like, that's what I would do. And I'd be like, okay, well, I don't want to just watch G movies. I want to see rated R. I want to give the devil his due. He makes the game very interesting. And so I think to God's glory, I mean, he wants a good story to his glory. And I think the best story is it's a neck and neck finish. We don't know. It's going to overtime. Yes. We don't know. But good triumphs in the end. Yes. That to me, that's what it is, I think. It's good and evil, and it's a drama. It's a drama. And what we do now in the way that we've sort of engineered our reality now is everything's metaphorical. We play football so we don't have to go to war.
Wow.
The reason you had anatomists who know what a liver is because that guy got sliced open, and we're going to call that thing that's popping out a liver. Right? Warfare was the beginning of medicine. In the Asian, Oriental martial art, it's medicinal and martial. And you don't know the medicine unless you have the martial. So it's again, back to both sides utilized. And what I want to do, you talk about sort of escaping the limits, right? And you talk to entrepreneurs, successful people who other people can glean some insight that helps them, tackle the challenges and contribute something and, just make the world better, and I get the reward that I live a better life. That is the purpose of this show, is what I would guess, just looking at it, having watched it, and having been on it. Is that accurate?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, right. So what I want to do, my propulsors, it's an athletic advantage. That means that little Stevie, and if little Johnny's doing it, well, little Stevie needs it, little Jenny needs it, everybody needs it. So suddenly I have created a category of a ubiquitous tool that is proprietary. I have a killer patent on it. I just received another patent on it, and I'm filing another patent. Nike can't make them and sell them. Adidas, anybody can't do it. No, you can't. Maybe we'll work together, I don't know, but I want options, and I want control because I know that I am just. I know that. I will not succumb to the corruption of cheating, underhanded. I just won't do it. And that's the way I want to play the game. I want power. I want money so that I can help the world be a better place. And I want the world to be I want to go to heaven. I want to look down. I want to be looking at a story to God's glory. I don't want it to be some, Kim Jong-il is ruling. I don't want that. Darkness, liberty, extinguish the light. No, that would be terrible. Shoot me now. What was the point? Right? I want consciousness to abound and to flourish and to, I want people to get goosebumps about waking up because what's today got to bring? That's what I want. And
well, you certainly got the energy and to inspire people to follow that.
No. I think what it is, again, I am irrelevant in the story ultimately. If my work is true, this will happen. At least the physical education part. I don't know. But I do think good's going to win in the end. I really do, because I think God wants that.
Yeah, some things take a long time,
Yeah.
It doesn't, as you know.
My first objective is to empower the world to walk stronger with balance. That's what I want to do. And when I met Mark Bell, Ben Patrick, knees over toes guy, unbelievable. I met Ben. I just told Ben, Ben, I got a man crush on you because vertical jump is amazing and you're so dedicated, you're so committed, and you're so fearless. You know how many people shit on Ben? Thousands. Jealousy is a terrible thing. Envy. It should translate it into inspiration and motivation. Don't hate it. Let it make you better, right? Let it fire you up that you want to be better than him, and admit you want to be better than him, and maybe you're not, so find what you are better at him then. So Ben Patrick introduced me to Mark Bell. Mark Bell, for me, is a legend because Bigger, Stronger, Faster by Chris Bell. When I saw that, I wanted to be 300 pounds. I knew I would never be, but squatting 1,000 pounds? Yes! So I'm going to meet Mark Bell. And I walked into Super Training Gym up in Sacramento. And I just walked over there. I see him, I'm smiling even bigger on the inside. And I'm like, Mark, you are the pivot point, my friend, because why? You're a big dog, and I'm gonna help you become a big cat. Big cat is sexier, and this transformation, you, Mark Bell, that's what's gonna resonate to just the every person out there, right? And our relationship, we talk every day, every single day. We're gonna be on the podcast with Landmine University on March 6th. I love Mark Bell, and I love him. He's so honest, and he cares about just, you know what he told me? He goes, when I see a hater, I just think like, maybe if that guy got a hug in his life at the right moment, he wouldn't be the hater that he is. What a wonderful perspective, because he hit the bell. Mark wakes up and he's got enough money in a bank that he don't care. He can afford to do whatever he wants to do. And he has such a drive and a determination and just an honesty. Yeah, I take performance-enhancing drugs. I'm not ashamed of it. I do it. Most guys, Liver King, oh, no, I don't do it. I don't do it. I don't want to talk to that guy. I want to talk to Mark Bell. You can trust Mark Bell.
Yeah, well, he's got a,
he's going to be level.
He's got his belief and he moves forward and he doesn't, I think you've got to get that balance. Like
he's transcended. He has transcended to the place where I want to be.
Yeah.
And he told me very early on, he goes, David Weck, Coach Weck. He goes, let me tell you the word, equanimity. Equanimity. Just find equanimity. And that's the place where it's just like, okay, it's balanced.
Yeah. David, we're going to have a workout. We're going to have to leave it there. Equanimity, that's the word of the day. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you. This has been fun.
Thank you for listening to this episode. If you've got any value from it whatsoever, then please do us a favor, like, subscribe, tell somebody, and that will help us to be able to continue to do more of these and help you escape your own personal limits. Thanks for listening.